Hi, this is Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio and welcome to my new project for 2018. This project will run throughout 2018 and I do hope that you'll join in with me. As part of this project, we will be altering a set of playing cards and also doing some journaling, and I'll explain more about it just shortly. If you don't have playing cards, don't worry. You can use cereal boxes, other food boxes, make them size of playing cards, make them bigger, make them smaller, whatever you want. And you could also use any other types of kind of heavy paper, heavy card. So if you don't have playing cards, don't be concerned, you can still join in. So what I'm doing just now is taking my set of playing cards and I'm separating them out into the different suits. Now, it's not necessary to do this, it's just the way that I'm approaching it. And I've put the two joker cards and the card that I think gives the scoring for bridge to the side, but we'll probably also use those. Now, I do want to take 4 cards out, and initially I'd thought about taking out the aces, but I've decided to take out the queens. That's not essential. All I'm suggesting you do is to take 4 cards from the main pack and put them to the side. And I'm just going to put those along with the 3 kind of spare cards at the moment. And all I'll do just now, just to keep them together in their little bundles, is to put an elastic band around all of them. So, the main item you require for this project is either a set of playing cards or an equivalent number of pieces of card of around that size. You could use ATCs, for example, if you wanted. And I'm also opting to do a little bit of journaling in a separate book, and all I've got here is a basic notebook. It wasn't terribly expensive. I could have handmade this, but I just decided I was going to use that, but I will alter that as well, certainly in terms of the front. In terms of other supplies that you'll need throughout the year, not just for this video today, paints of any sort, craft paints or acrylics, glue of some description, especially if you're going to collage. I'm going to be using some masking tape, but that's not essential. I'll also use some gesso, again not essential unless you prepare your cards the way that I have. A heat tool, unless you're in very warm climes where things can dry quickly. Scissors, paint brushes, basic equipment of that sort. Anything at all that you have for stamping, should you choose to stamp, and those can just be recycled items, and any sort of printed papers, drop papers, anything at all that you might want to use as collage, including any magazine images. So I will be using some other things and I'll let you know about those as we go along. So I'm going to start preparing my cards, and all I'm going to do today is to take one of the suits and start to work on them. You could prepare them all in advance, or you could do it suit by suit if you wanted, because after this what we'll be doing is 1 card per week. So because these have got a bit of a kind of shiny glossy surface on them, I'm just going to sand them down, so just using a bit of sandpaper. And as I would always say at this point, if you are sanding anything, be careful, especially if you have any respiratory illnesses. There can be a lot of dust comes off these, and you know, sometimes they are kind of plastic coated, so not always terribly good if you breathe that in. So just be careful when you're doing it, and you'll see that once I've sanded all the cards, I'll then go on to give them a wipe over with a wet wipe and then just dry them off with a card. I'm sorry, not with a card, with a towel. So just finishing off that first suit, and as I say, you'll see me here then just go on to give them a wipe over. Now often with these segments of video I'll put them on fast forward, but what I've decided to try and do through this series is to do it more in a kind of real time. I will cut things out where it's repetitive and I may occasionally put it on fast forward, but I want to do it more in a kind of real and natural time. And for me, that's part of what I'm trying to achieve through this particular project, is just to be intentional with everything that I do. I don't want to be rushing things. I want it to be very intentional. And what I'm doing now is to lay out this suit of cards, and I'm just finding an easy way to actually prepare them. So I'm putting them face up because I want all the backs to be kind of similar. So at this stage all I'm going to do is to take some of that masking tape and to stick these cards together. Then I'll flip them over and I'll do the back with gesso. And while I'm doing this, I'll explain a little bit more about my ideas behind the project. So what I'm doing is what I call a mixed media positivity deck. And over the course of 2018, I'd like to help guide you, create a positivity deck. So why am I calling it that? Well, it's mixed media simply because we'll use a range of supplies such as paint and collage to create the cards. And positivity because we will seek to make each card a positive experience to create and to draw on in the future. And it will be a deck of cards for you to use as you choose. And we'll also journal some thoughts as we go along, week by week, with each of the prompts for the cards. So the intention is that we'll use a standard deck of cards or similar size paper or cardstock, or adjust the size as you see fit, and whatever supplies we have to create the cards. So you don't need to go out and buy any particular supplies, just use what you have. And as with a standard deck of cards, we will create 4 suits, or as I'm calling them, 4 states of being. And we'll also create a 5th state of being towards the end of the entire course. Each card will be based on a word relating to that particular state of being. Now, by state of being, I'm taking that to mean really anything mind, body, soul type thing, a kind of holistic approach to this. So you might ask, how can such a deck be used? Well, really, what we're doing here is really just creating the deck. How it's used in future is very much down to you. At the very least, it will be a portfolio of your work from this kind of course, as I'm calling it, for lack of another word. And it's something that you might want to display or to pull out from time to time to look at as you would an art journal or the likes. Beyond that, you could, for example, use it as a set of oracle cards. If you use oracle cards, you could pull a card out at random each day or each week and reflect on the word of that card and also on the notes in your little journal. So my intention is that each week, starting from Monday the 1st of January, there'll be a new video released with the prompt for that week, and I will demonstrate making my card for that prompt. And at 5 points in the year, part of the video will also involve decorating each of the states of being. So this Monday coming, New Year's Day, we will decorate the back of these cards, so the ones that I'm currently gessoing. We'll do those as a whole and I'll explain more a bit about that in the next video, but I'll also give you the word for week 1. And then the following Monday, there will be the second word that goes on this particular set of cards. Now, if you're viewing this at some point in the future, this particular video is being posted on the 31st of December, and the week 1 video will be on the 1st of January. But if you're watching it at some point in the future, don't be concerned about that. You can jump in at any point, and you can do really, if the series is quite a bit through, then you can start with any of the prompts and always go back and do the others. So you'll never fall behind in this. Just start when you feel ready to, and follow the videos along when you can. So that's most of the background to my idea, and it's something that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, and I really do hope that it's something that will interest you and that you will join me in doing. So if you want to ask any other questions about it, then please feel free to leave a comment below. So now that I have put the gesso in the back of the cards, I've set them off to the side to dry, and I won't be going back to them really until week 1, which will be up on January the 1st. But what I want to do now is to alter my little book. And I'm just going to take the staples out, and I will then decorate the cover. Now, this little book isn't essential. I know that I just want to take some notes, because as I say, I'll give you a words prompt every week, and on the basis of that word, I'm certainly planning to write a few notes, just to journal a few notes that in future I can look back on, especially if I want to look at a particular card. And I hope this will become clearer. If it's not already clear, it will become clearer as we go through the weeks. So just struggling a bit to take those staples out. I could have made this kind of journal from scratch, but I had this little journal and this little notebook and just decided I may as well use it. So there I am. I've struggled to get those staples out. I've put them somewhere safe, and we'll get them right into the bin as soon as I can. So taking the pages out and laying them off to the side at the moment. So just feeling the material and deciding that this probably needs a bit of a sand as well. Anything that has a kind of glossy finish on it is often better, just sanded. It just means that whatever layers you put on top will hopefully have a better grip, whereas if it remains shiny, things can literally slide off them. Even if paint dries on them, it can then peel off. I know that from experience. So giving that a sand over, and again another wipe off just to get that dust off and to get it off my mat. So looking at it and wondering what I'm going to do, and I decide that a very rough layer of gesso would be a good start. Again, this will help whatever I put on top, this will give it a really good foundation. I'm not too concerned about every single millimetre, eighth of an inch being covered, but I do just want to try and get a good base coat down. I'm not too concerned if the red shows through in the final piece, but I just wanted to take it away from it being that kind of plain notebook. Now, as I say, I'm trying to be very intentional with this. I want to enjoy each and every brush stroke that I put down. Sometimes doing preparation can seem a bit boring, you want to get into the main bit of it. But actually, in terms of just enjoying art, enjoying what we do, just being in the moment, it's actually quite good, I think, to just enjoy every single brush stroke as it goes down. So I've grabbed some of my drop papers and I've just taken some Mod Podge here, any glue will do, and I'm just going to start to glue down some pieces onto my cover. And I'm feeling that I quite like these pieces of, I think these were old, well, I would call them flip chart pages. I think sometimes they're referred to as newsprint. I had just used these as drop sheets across my craft mat a lot of the time. And, I'd stamped things off in them. So these ones are fairly muted in terms of the colours, and that's kind of the way that I'm feeling today as I do this. I'm not looking for anything too bold or too bright, but just like the bits of patterns that's on here. Now sometimes when I'm doing collage I will just stick things down without thinking about it, but I'm being a bit more kind of again in the moment here, just looking at the pieces, looking at where I think they'll fit. Do I need to tear another bit off? Do I want it overlapping there? How do I want it? And of course, because it's drop paper, there's bits of glue sticking to it already, so in a couple of places just have to take that off. And also removing the hairs that come out of the glue brush. I sometimes use a paintbrush for gluing, and then I get annoyed at myself for using a paintbrush for gluing, and then I'll use an actual glue brush, and then I think, I know why I use paintbrushes, because there's more hairs come out of glue brushes. But again, I'm just going to go with the flow and just enjoy the moment. Just really relaxing into it. And that's one of the things that I want to get from this whole series, is just really enjoying the moment, enjoying the time that I sit down to make art, to craft, or whatever. It's not to say that I don't normally enjoy it, but sometimes I do rush at things. And sometimes it's good to do things quite quickly. But for me, this is all about doing it with intention. Now, if you plan to join me on this project, please do let me know below. I'd love to know if this is something that interests you. I realise that doing something over the course of a year is a big commitment, but as I said earlier, it's one of these things that you can stop and start, you can do at your own pace. You know, so if you miss a week, you'll be able to catch up whenever you have the time to catch up. So you'll never fall behind with this. Because for as long as there's a YouTube, then the likelihood is that these videos will be here. So even here, looking at pieces of paper and seeing that some are plainer, with just little elements of colour on them, and I'm thinking, no, I like those pieces. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason as to why a certain thing calls you. You just think, this is what I need today. This is what I want to put down on this piece of paper. And you'll see as this develops, I take it to a stage where I end it today, but, you know, I may come back and add more to it. That's perfectly okay. You know, whether you're journaling or creating a bigger piece of art, you can always go back and add something. For me, there's something quite soothing about collaging. I really do enjoy it. And the way that the different pieces just start to build up that kind of background. You know, so you take odds and ends and you put them together and you think, yeah, that goes. Other people might look at it and say, no, that doesn't go. But, you know, you create what pleases you. So I'm now going to take some paints and just start to fill in some of those bits where the red's still showing through a little bit. As I said, I don't mind if it continues to show through. That's quite all right. And there's bits that didn't get gesso on it, so the likelihood is that they will still continue to show through. So for some reason my camera wouldn't focus here, but this is a kind of taupe colour. And again, I've chosen some fairly muted paint colours here. I wasn't looking for brights today, although I do like those little splashes of blue and that kind of bright pink that's there. Those, of course, were already on the page, or were already on the background pages. So just working my way around the page, just blending in that colour, taking it over the kind of collaged papers, just so that they become a part of the main piece. At times just kind of dry brushing the paint out so it spreads out quite thinly. I'm not using this very thick just now. Just taking a slightly smaller brush because I want to get into some of the smaller spaces. And again, just with intention, not with anything particular in mind, but just taking my time to go round the page and look at what needs to be done and where. So taking another colour now, taking this kind of light green colour and having to take the top off because the little hole was kind of jammed up with paint. And again, just taking that and starting to blend it in. Not looking for it to be too bright or too bold anywhere, just giving a little bit of a different colour to it, adding something but at the same time blending it in. And then you'll see I start to do this a lot, using my finger just to blend it in. So taking it over the edges of the collage paper. And I like the effect that it's creating there. It's grabbing the edge of the collage paper and creating a slightly darker effect. But I also like the way that it's grabbing the gesso underneath. And because the gesso, you could see the brush strokes in the gesso, it's just grabbing each bit of that. And I quite like the way that that's turning out. Now I should apologise if my voice is going a little bit croaky at times. There's colds and flus and whatnot doing the rounds at the moment, and I've just got a little bit croaky. So I'm now moving on to this very pale blue colour. Again, just wanting to give it a little bit of a different colour. I do like the muted tones, but just want to add some interest with different colours. And again, I'll just use my finger just to start to blend those into the other colours, to blend them over the collage papers. And really just playing, just experimenting. Nothing particular in mind. Just doing what calls me at any particular time. And you see there that I start to kind of knock back the colour of that kind of pink blob. It is a blob of paint that was on the drop sheet. Trying to fill in where those little red bits are, some of them anyway. And, you know, as I maybe said already, because they don't have the gesso on them, it's not entirely grabbing there. There is a kind of resistance. But that's okay. However it turns out, it's how it turns out. I wasn't setting out to do anything particular with this piece. And starting to feel now that it's coming together. So while there were collage pieces stuck down, I'm starting to feel that these are now part and parcel of the whole piece, and that is through the blending of the paint on top. And of course, this that I'm doing today can be used, well, for any art piece, for any art journaling piece, to cover any kind of journal. And in a sense, that's why I'm doing my Journaling Unplugged series, where I just sit and play and let you see what I'm doing. No plan in mind. I just sit down with an art journal and see what comes. And that's fun. So giving this a quick dry, just looking at how it will look as an actual journal cover. quite happy with that, but I feel that I want to knock the colour back a little bit and to kind of blend it in a little bit more. So I'm taking my gesso, and I should say this gesso is, well, it's nearly the end of the tub and it has gone very thick. That's why I used it on the cards, because it was thick and I knew it would give a nice thick layer to begin with. I don't know if I'll need a second coat on the cards, but we'll see. So just using my finger to actually put it onto the brayer there, and yeah, I'm happy with the way that that's starting to go. Again, it just, I think, helps it all sit together better. It pulls it together in a way. It's hard to describe why that's the case, but it just seems to do that. I sometimes have a fear when I start to do that type of thing, but you know, what's lost at the end of the day? Nothing. If it came to it, I could cover it completely with one colour. Rarely does that happen. Sometimes it does, but rarely. Just got to go with your intuition with these things. At this point, I was pondering whether or not I wanted to add some dark colour. I thought about kind of black splatters, but decided against that. I'm now just rotating the cover around, looking at what way I want to put it on, because of course I don't have to put it on the exact way that I took it off, but in the end I decide I will. And all I'm going to show you next is how I actually put the pages back in. Obviously it was stapled to begin with. I don't want staples in it this time. And I just look at how that will fit together. Now, because it was stapled before, there are 4 holes in it, and I'm just going to use those 4 holes. I've taken a piece of embroidery floss that I think matches the cover, and I'm just going to use, I think it's roughly 2.5 times the length of the book. That's usually what I do if I'm when I'm binding a book in this particular way. So I'm just going to do that, and then I will thread the needle. Now, one of the things about embroidery floss is that sometimes the kind of strands start to separate, and the way I find it's easiest to then thread the needle is just to take a little bit of glue, something like Mod Podge, although I'm sure you could even do it with a glue stick. But just to take a little bit on my forefinger and then rub the floss between my forefinger and thumb, just the kind of end bit, and pull it together and pull it flat. And then I just let that dry for a second or two. So in the time that it takes me to put the lid back on the Mod Podge, that should have dried sufficiently to make it easier for me to thread the needle. It takes a second or two because I'm trying to keep it in shot and look at it at the same time, which isn't always easy. But there we go, I've pulled it through and that works fine. So I'm now going to take an awl, and you'll see the 4 holes there from the staples. I'm now going to take an awl and I'm just going to poke through those holes. Now the awl that I've got is probably thicker than the needle, but that's okay because it'll make it easier to get the needle through. But I'm now just going to poke those 4 holes. Now I didn't have to use those. I have done other journals where I've taken a sketchbook and altered it, and I put the holes in different places, but you know, that's okay. Today it felt easier to do that. Now what I'm going to do is you can see the holes in the actual book, but I did notice that they were slightly off centre, so I'm going to try and centre them a bit better. Now I attempt to go through all the pages in one go, and it is just too much. And I have to actually split the pages out and do it in two kind of separate batches. Obviously got to be careful here, you don't want to stab yourself when you're doing this. And you'll see I'm pushing and pushing, but it's just not going all the way through. So I just kind of separate that out. And sorry, I do go slightly off camera, it's just sometimes I have to pull it a bit closer to myself to actually be able to see it. And now for the second lot, and I'll do these exactly the same. Now, if I didn't have an awl, I would have just used the needle. The awl just helps make a slightly bigger hole. So I've got those, and I'm just going to line them up. And I'm just going to go from that top hole down. Now, just at this point, I think the memory card on my camera became full, so it flashed up to me, so there might be a slight break here where I had to actually go and put in another memory card. So sometimes for that first hole it's difficult getting all the way through, so I've put it through the cover, through one lot of paper, and then I'll do it through the next lot. And of course all the time I'm trying to make sure that I leave a tail on the other end. Now sometimes what I do is I take a small bulldog clip and hold it, and that's usually sufficient, but I hadn't done that here. So a little bit of the resistance from the floss coming through. Okay, so change the memory card there, and you'll see I've got it through, and now I'm going down to that second hole. And after this it tends to go through a little bit easier, certainly on the way down there. The embroidery floss just tends to stick a little bit going through. I sometimes use actual bookbinding thread, which is kind of waxed linen, and that tends to go through a bit easier simply because it is waxed and therefore offers less resistance going through. But now just going down to that bottom hole, and all I'll do is to go back up the way now through the same holes. But what I try to do on the way back up is to make certain that, one, I'm keeping the threads as tight as possible, and you will see me adjusting them back and forward. But two, when I go through the hole, what I want to try and do, or what I want to try not to do, is to actually go through the actual thread itself. So I'm trying to put it cleanly through the hole without it going through the actual thread that's already there. And sometimes, if this is something you're doing, sometimes you just got to pull the cover away a little bit from the book, just so that you can see where the needle's going in, and it just helps you guide that needle through a bit easier. So then up to the next hole and through it. And I do notice here that some of the threads are a little bit loose. There's something not quite right there. So at this stage, if this happens to you, just take your time, just go back and look and see what's happening. Is there something snagging? And that's all that was happening there. That thread was just snagging as it was trying to go through the hole. So just pull them gently. You don't want to pull too hard, or you can make the holes really big. You know, you can tear the paper, which isn't helpful. But just pull on them gently. I'm taking the needle off so I don't stab myself with that. Just checking each and every little bit there. Just working it back the way. Pulling gently at the threads. And then I'm happy with that, and I'll just tie a knot. And I leave the threads long so that if I want to, I can add some beads or charms or whatever on whenever I feel like it. As I say, I don't necessarily feel that this cover is finished. I may well come back and add some more to it. But for me, as much as I will sometimes use ordinary notebooks as they are, for me this just fits in more with what I'm aiming to do in this project. And you'll see some colours transferred to the inside. That's perfectly fine. I might do more on those in the future. I don't know yet. So all I'm going to do now in preparation, my first 2 or 3 pages are going to be the index, because I'm going to be writing about each and every card that I do, or at least the prompt for each and every card. So all I'm going to do is write my numbers from 1 through to 52, although I may have some more cards, but I'll write those, and then that's ready for when I come to card 1, week number 1. That could be done as I go along, but you know, I'm just doing it in preparation. And I'm just going to start on the right hand page. And that's that book done. So now I just take a quick check of the cards that I've got drying with the gesso on them. I'd only put 1 layer on. I might put a second layer on. I don't know. If I do, I'll let you know in the next video. But just kind of bending it a little bit where the tape is, just because some of that is still a little bit sticky. I've just let that dry on its own. I've not done it with the heat gun, but I'm just going to leave it like that until next time. So there we are. We've started our project to create a positivity deck. I do hope that you'll join me with this, and I will see you on the 1st of January with the next video. So thanks very much for watching. All the best for 2018. Bye for now.